Welcome to the Aquatic Therapy Bootcamp, Aquatic Therapy University's introduction to aquatic therapy for people that are new to aquatics and for people who are getting ready to get into the lab-based element and need a little primer before they start. I'm Andrea Salzman. I am a physical therapist. I'm the Director of Programming for Aquatic Therapy University, and I thank you for coming to our video production. So, why am I here? I first started in aquatic therapy when I was a physical therapy student. I graduated from the University of Alabama at Birmingham. David Morris, who is one of the first presidents of aquatic physical therapy of the APTA section, was my mentor. He actually took our class of physical therapy students over to Spain rehab and showed us, really for the first time that I had ever seen, how you can take a person who has almost nothing going for them on land, and when you put them into water, everything changes. It was almost like an epiphany for me, and from that moment on, I fell in love. Probably one of my key assets to come and talk to you today is that I love it. I love aquatic therapy, and even today, as I have now 17 years of experience in aquatics, every day that I get into the pool, I try and think of something new. And so what we're going to try and bring you today is ideas that perhaps you hadn't even thought of. Even if the principles of aquatics are the same, we're going to try and provide for you kind of a sweet spot, a new way to look at things, so that the next time that you get in the water, you have ideas that hadn't even crossed your mind. So then the question becomes, why are you here? You're either new to aquatics or you're about to take a lab. And you wanted to have the principles underneath your belt before you went into the pool. So what is aquatic therapy, and why does it bring more bang to the buck? To understand the power of the pool, you first have to understand that even though aquatics in a lot of people's minds is a separate profession, all it is actually just another room in your clinic. Whether you're a speech therapist, a physical therapist, an occupational therapist, an athletic trainer, the truth of the matter is that the pool is just another piece of equipment. So in your gym, you have weights, and you have TheraBand, and you have mats, and you have balls, and you have swings. And you have in the room down the hall a room that just happens to be full of molecules that are warm, buoyant, and viscous instead of the gravity-based environment that we live in now. And it's an important point because insurers are starting to think of aquatic therapy as something totally novel. They think that aquatic therapy is this innovation that hasn't been shown to be effective. And the truth is, it's just another piece of equipment, just like you would choose. Well, let's take for an example, if you were a pediatric therapist and you decided that you wanted to take a child who had trouble with head and trunk riding, and you wanted to create an unstable base off which to operate. You might pull a bolster in and sit the child straddled on that bolster. And then, because you want to make it as realistic as possible, you start to move the bolster. And perhaps you make like a horse sound. It's like they're on a bucking bronco. And then you're like, oh, this is lame. You know, we're on a bolster. The kid knows we're on a bolster. So let's up the ante. And you bring in a wooden horse, and you put the child on a wooden horse, and you have the horse go back and forth, and you make sounds, and they have the reins, and they get a sense of being on a horse. And then you take them even one step farther, and you put them onto a living, breathing horse and do the same head and trunk riding things. But the funny thing is that insurers think that once you take the child and put them on that horse, that it has become this totally new thing. It has become hippotherapy, and it's not the same thing as physical therapy or occupational therapy. It's this different discipline. And they're starting to feel the same way about aquatics. They're starting to feel like aquatic therapy is this different thing. And so one of the focuses of what we're going to do for the next 4 hours is we're going to talk about what water brings to the table, but at the same time talk about it's just another tool. When someone walks into your clinic or your hospital, or they enter your rehab center, you need to see them walking in the door and you need to think, do I choose land or do I choose water? Because they both have amazing things to offer, and it's up to you as a clinician to make that decision. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is hydrodynamic and thermal properties. And I don't know how many of you have been to aquatic therapy conferences before, but let me tell you, the first thing that everybody starts with is the hydrodynamic and thermal properties. And those lectures tend to start back with the Greeks and Romans and start talking about all of the formulas. What I want to do with you today is essentially give you a functional look at those properties. Instead of just saying Archimedes' principle says this or Pascal's law does this, we're going to actually look at some case studies, look at video clips, look at examples, so that after you leave this module, you are going to have ideas immediately for putting in the pool. So the first thing that we always start with is buoyancy. And what I want you to think about buoyancy as being is essentially it's the arch nemesis of gravity. So you think about superheroes and you always have the villain. You always have the good guy, you always have the Superman or the Spider-Man, and you always have the opposing force. And buoyancy and gravity are like that. Gravity exists on this earth, even when you're in the pool. And it always bears down towards the middle of the earth. It always actually pulls down towards the middle of the earth. And one of the things that I hear people talk about a lot is they say, oh, the pool is this buoyancy eliminated environment, or gravity eliminated environment. And it's not. Gravity still exists in the pool. It is still drawing you down towards the bottom of the pool. But buoyancy is lifting you up in the opposing direction. And so you get this competition of forces, and that competition can be used therapeutically in amazing ways. And the way that insurers think that it should be used is like the weakest link. Insurers think that it needs to be, that aquatics needs to be for people who are really, really weak and immediately after surgery, or someone who has MS and can't handle movement on land, that they're just too debilitated to do it. And so they kind of give a wink and a nod and they say,